So that pretty much wraps it up for your Raw and SmackDown shows. Let's go ahead and predict now the Backlash pay-per-view. Now, as I'm looking at the card here, I see 8 matches written down. I don't see anything for the kickoff. And I'm sure they're probably going to add something at some point. If it's co-branded now, they have all sorts of different people they can choose from. They can do Ty Dillinger. They can do a cruiserweight match. They can do Breezango. They can do Titus Worldwide. There's all sorts of shit they could do on the kickoff if they choose to. But currently, I don't see anything advertised at the moment. So these are the 8 matches I have. When I look at the card, most of these matches to me are kind of easy to predict, or at least when I say easy to predict, I just mean in my head, I know who I'm going to pick, not necessarily that I'm right or wrong. But there are 2 matches that I'm struggling with a little bit, and I'm going to start with those 2 matches because, if you can believe that, these are the 2 lowest matches on the card when you consider how many championships we have up for grabs here. So, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This one I think is hard because I think it would be a good opportunity to give Owens and Zayn a victory here and give them huge bragging rights. Yes, on paper, this is a huge mismatch. It looks like Strowman and Lashley are easily going to completely obliterate these 2 guys. But they can do something here, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Monday Night Raw, they can do something here with Strowman and Lashley. Potentially, maybe these 2 guys having an issue with each other, maybe there's some miscommunication and Strowman accidentally hits Lashley in the match or vice versa, allowing Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to steal a victory and then have Strowman and Lashley have an issue. You throw Roman Reigns into that mix later on, and like I said, Kurt Angle could make some sort of a triple threat for the number 1 contender spot to face Brock at whatever pay-per-view they do that. And then if you add a victory there with Owens and Zayn, which really wouldn't hurt Strowman or Lashley at all. If Strowman and Lashley lose this tag team match in a fluke to Owens and Zayn, it's not going to do anything to damage those 2 guys, but it's going to do a lot to help out Owens and Zayn, especially for bragging rights. And then the 2 of them can also claim that they should be getting a shot at the Universal title as well. And then you can involve all 5 guys into the number 1 contender picture and maybe go from there. So when I look at this match, I'm like, shit, who's going to win? I'm still going to pick Strowman and Lashley. I think they're unstoppable. I think Strowman is eventually going to power slam and pin one of these guys, but it would be a good opportunity for Owens and Zayn to win. So I'm going to reluctantly pick Strowman and Lashley here, but I will admit that this match, in my mind, is kind of up in the air. I think it could go either way there. The same goes for Daniel Bryan and Big Cass. I don't know how you introduce Big Cass after his injury. He just got to the main roster. So far, he's been impressive on the mic, and WWE, it seems like they have big plans for him. And Daniel Bryan has just returned to the ring, and you know they're probably going to push him towards the title picture as well. So what do you do here? You can't beat Daniel Bryan, but at the same time, do you want to beat Big Cass? Do you want Big Cass, this monster, this 7-footer, to lose clean in his first match against somebody half his size? What is that going to do for Big Cass's status as a big badass bully? So part of me thinks that The Miz is going to get involved in this and cost Daniel Bryan the match. But why would The Miz do that? He already has a title match on Backlash. If his match comes first, then maybe he can interfere in the Cass and Daniel Bryan match. But if his match does not come first, I don't know why he would even want to be out there. Because he's got a title match later on. Why is he going to come out there and risk himself if he's got an opportunity at a championship later on in the night? So I've got to pick somebody here, and I think just to build heat for Big Cass and to get him over as an asshole heel, I think he has to find a way to win this match. For the Daniel Bryan people out there, don't freak out. I'm not saying Big Cass is going to win clean, and even if Daniel Bryan loses here, I still fully expect for Daniel Bryan to get a title shot at SummerSlam. That's where I think they're going here. I think when all of the dust settles with Shinsuke and AJ, and you throw Samoa Joe in the mix, I think eventually you got to build for Daniel Bryan and Shinsuke at SummerSlam. So even if Daniel Bryan loses here, I don't think that's going to hurt. If you can get The Miz involved, it sets up Daniel Bryan and The Miz next. Daniel Bryan can get his revenge on The Miz and beat him on his road to SummerSlam or something like that. I don't know. But for the purposes of this match, much like the tag team match, I'm going to reluctantly pick Big Cass in this one. Those are the 2 matches that I really struggle to pick. I think both of them could go either way. So there you go. I'm picking Strowman and Lashley in the tag, and I'm picking Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan. Now getting into the matches that I feel are a little bit easier to predict, at least for me. I still might be wrong, but at least I'm not racking my brain over this. The first one is Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. Now, I know every fan is going to insist that the right thing to do, quote unquote, is to have Samoa Joe beat Roman Reigns, right? Of course, that's what you want, but I just don't think WWE is going to do that. And like I said earlier, this is a match that I just don't agree with because I think it's a situation where nobody wins. The fans don't want to see Samoa Joe get beat by Roman Reigns clean. They don't want to see that. But at the same time, I can't see Samoa Joe choking out Roman Reigns unless there's some interference, unless somebody gets involved and costs one of these guys the match. If somebody comes out, I don't even know who it would be, but if somebody comes out and interferes and costs Roman Reigns the match and Samoa Joe is able to choke him out that way, that's the only way I see that happening. So in the end here, I'm going to predict Roman Reigns to beat Samoa Joe, and we already saw Samoa Joe tease that he wants to be involved in the title picture over on SmackDown. So even with a loss here, I think you can still just carry that on. So I think Samoa Joe and AJ Styles is probably going to be your next feud on SmackDown at some point. But in the end, I think Roman Reigns is going to get the victory over Samoa Joe, and it should be a lot of fun to read Twitter during that match. Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy for the U.S. title. This is a kind of another tough one, but I'm going to pick Jeff Hardy to retain here, not necessarily to win. I don't know if Jeff Hardy is going to beat Randy Orton clean here, but I think he's going to walk out of Backlash as the United States champion. Shelton Benjamin getting involved is a big possibility. He mentioned on SmackDown that he wants to be a part of this U.S. title situation, so maybe he gets involved, fucking up the match and sabotaging it, leading to a triple threat for the U.S. title, either on SmackDown or the next pay-per-view. If it was up to me, I would like to not see disqualifications on this show because we saw a couple of funny finishes at the Greatest Royal Rumble, so I think for Backlash, WWE needs to give us finishes here, but this is one where I can actually see a DQ. But still, at the end of the day, I'm going to pick Hardy to win. I feel like I have to give you guys an accurate prediction here. So I'm going to say that Jeff Hardy wins, even though I think there's also a chance that he could retain by not necessarily beating Randy Orton. Seth Rollins versus The Miz for the Intercontinental title. Same thing here. Rollins is going to retain. I don't see how you put the belt on Miz and you have the IC and the US title both on SmackDown. I definitely think Rollins is walking out of Backlash with the Intercontinental title. Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. I'm going to pick Nia to retain here. I think you just put the belt on her at WrestleMania. You don't take it off of her the very next pay-per-view, especially when Alexa Bliss probably is not still quite 100% yet. I wouldn't be surprised at all if she works a slightly more limited match here, or maybe if they pull something to where she doesn't get very physical at all. I don't know how they would do that, but I don't expect this to be much of a match, and I think Nia Jax, again, win, lose, or draw. I'm not saying a DQ or a count out is out of the question here. It is. Maybe Alexa just powders out and leaves or runs away or whatever. But in the end, Nia Jax, I think, walks out of Backlash as the Raw Women's Champion. Charlotte versus Carmella for the SmackDown Women's title. Not only do I think Nia Jax is going to retain, but I actually think Carmella is going to retain too. I know that's crazy. On paper, Charlotte would chew this bitch up and spit her out, but I think that they're going to continue this angle with the Iconics. I think the Iconics are going to get involved here. They're going to have something to do with this match and cost Charlotte the victory, although we could see Becky Lynch and Asuka come out there as well and maybe run off the Iconics, allowing Charlotte to put Carmella in the figure eight and tap her out. It's also possible that maybe there's a miscommunication between Asuka and Charlotte, because right now they're all BFFs on SmackDown, right? Asuka, Charlotte, and Becky all love each other right now. As a matter of fact, you can see them all hugging right there on the screen. So at some point, I think you got to build for the rematch between Charlotte and Asuka. So if you take the belt off of Carmella right now, give it back to Charlotte, and build these two for SummerSlam or Money in the Bank, then great. Otherwise, drag it out a little bit more. Have Peyton Royce and Billie Kay cost Charlotte the victory here. Have Carmella survive at least one pay-per-view, and then maybe she can drop it at Money in the Bank to maybe Asuka, but I say Charlotte winds up getting it back, and then Asuka takes the belt from Charlotte at SummerSlam. So I think you eventually have to build to Asuka and Charlotte too, where Asuka can win the belt is kind of the direction I see them going in. So I say Carmella survives this one pay-per-view, and that might be the last match I ever predict her to win on a pay-per-view for quite some time. And then, of course, in the main event, or at least it better be the main event, that's for sure. I'm assuming it will be AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE title in a no disqualification match. I just don't see how you don't put the title on Shinsuke Nakamura. I think this has to be his moment. I called this right from the start. When a lot of people were upset that he didn't win the title at WrestleMania, I was the one saying, hey, a heel turn is a good thing. It makes him interesting for the first time since he's been on the roster, and it gives him something very meaningful and important to do, and it furthers his issue with AJ Styles. It's going to give him another opportunity at the title, and I bet you he's going to wind up winning it. So I'm sticking with that. I think Shinsuke Nakamura will defeat AJ Styles for the title, and I think this is the time to do it. He's already had multiple title shots in the past. He's had a couple against Jinder Mahal. He's had a couple of matches against AJ Styles. He's had, 3-4 title shots, something like that, and he's fallen short every single time. This has to be Shinsuke's moment. Given what we've seen on TV lately, he keeps getting the upper hand on AJ, hitting him with these low blows and shit. So part of me does think that AJ Styles could get his revenge on Shinsuke, maybe even hitting Shinsuke with a low blow of his own. So just to recap here, I am predicting Strowman and Bobby Lashley to defeat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Big Cass to defeat Daniel Bryan, Jeff Hardy to retain the U.S. title defeating Randy Orton, Seth Rollins to retain the Intercontinental title defeating The Miz, Nia Jax to retain the Women's title defeating Alexa Bliss, Carmella retaining the SmackDown Women's title defeating Charlotte, and Shinsuke Nakamura defeating AJ Styles to become the new WWE Champion, which means I'm only picking and predicting one title change on this entire show. So I might be going a little bit low on that. We could see more than one title change, but those are my predictions, and I'm sticking with them. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. What are your predictions? What do you agree or disagree with me on as far as mine go? And let me know what you think is going to happen this coming Sunday, and I will be up here immediately after Backlash with a live review. It should be a lot of fun. And don't forget to join me on Twitter at GoodMikeWork if you want to live tweet with me throughout the whole show. So you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy Backlash, and I'll talk to you in just a couple of days. Until next time, peace.
This has been a Good Mike Work Commentaries production. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/GoodMikeWork. Follow Greg Morgan on Twitter at GoodMikeWork and visit GoodMikeWorkCommentaries.com for all the latest podcast and video content.